Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Welcome to Karate Without Belts. And what's that? What did I hear? Did I hear a crossover? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast, our first time crossover podcast with Mr. Josh Simmers.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, that's right. Crossover with the Okinawa Karate Podcast.
Yes.
Because as always, I am Josh Simmers, coming to you from the birthplace of karate, Okinawa, Japan, which I actually am, luckily sitting here in Okinawa. And I wish you were too. I wish you were here, and I wish we had just got done training for several hours, and got to discuss kata in person and stuff like that. But we'll get there one day.
Which is kind of funny too, because it's so close but yet so far away. I can literally see Okinawa from my house, but there's just I'm just kind of stuck in kind of quarantine land. Do you want to explain exactly what
we're stuck in this COVID mess that so many other people are, and I guess in Japan we're not forbidden from traveling, right?
No, and I don't even think in other places. So I guess as far back, I want to say as March, we were planning on doing this.
Yeah. I had 3 people that were supposed to be here on the island. You were one of them. There was 3 interviews that I wanted to do in person, and obviously that's not happening. So I did 2 Zoom videos earlier this year with 2 of the individuals that were supposed to be here by now, and then you were supposed to be here, and kind of, okay, next month maybe we'll push it off or this or that, because like you said, you can see Okinawa from where you're at. But
and the invisible prefectural line. Thank you, America.
Yep. So just
which
to be
we
safe,
should mention too, to not be glib, but we should mention that today is 8/6, and this is not something I think most people of our countrymen actually know, but it's something that's a painful reminder every year. Is today is the 75th anniversary of the bomb drop on Hiroshima.
Yes.
So,
yes.
We should not go by letting that.
Shouldn't. And I'm sorry to say that earlier this month we had passed the 75th anniversary from when the battle ended here on Okinawa, and because of COVID, the celebrations that we were supposed to have, and it's weird to say it like that. We shouldn't say celebration, but the memorials that we were supposed to have, we couldn't because of COVID, and so many people were staying away. And then today as well, there's a lot of stuff on the internet about it, a lot of things being posted in the news, but because of COVID, we're just not able to do some of the ceremonies that we would have liked to have done. I did not go to Peace Prayer Park this year. I wanted to go down there, but we were still in the middle of this COVID situation, so we stayed away. I actually had off work because I get the Japanese holidays off. You do as well, right?
Relatively speaking,
that was a holiday for us here in Okinawa. I'm not sure if it is for everywhere.
No, we didn't. Technically, we didn't get it off. We had a lot of what day was that?
That was I pulled the calendar down. I think it was a Japanese holiday. There was 2 of them back to back.
Oh no, I know what you're talking about. Yes,
yes.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I had off for that, but yeah, it's just
June 23rd. Yeah,
that feels like 50 years ago, but it was not even a month ago. But no,
I know. Right? I forgot today was Thursday. Today is Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. August 6th, Thursday. So yeah, you and I had talked about doing this several times because we have an interesting background that somehow crosses over in the lineage of Nakamura Shigeru's art, right? A bit there, a little bit of Okinawa Kempo, and then
also Pennsylvania. We're both from
Pennsylvania. Exactly. I'm from the northeastern part. You're from the southeastern part, right?
Yeah, I've got my Rocky shirt on.
Yes.
So yeah, Delco represent. Yeah, so we have that connection there, and just kind of
like you and I have never met in person.
Yes. And that's the kind of crazy thing that we have been we were like ships in the night. We've been trying to get on. Like I came down to Okinawa for like just kind of a party night. I was like, "Hey, you around?" And you're like, "Nah, I'm off training." And I was like, stopped by James's place when he still had with the place open. Every time I'd gone down, I don't know, you were out and I was there. Last summer I had to go to Okinawa 3 times for visa stuff, and was the last time I was there.
Yeah, there's always something going on, but we're doing this over Skype, and
Yes.
and that's your format anyway, so that works well because you're familiar with that.
I mean,
not the type that does. I don't usually do my podcasts over video. I've done 3 of them earlier this year because I had to, but those individuals were supposed to be here on island.
Yeah.
Wanted to keep it going anyway, and actually, to be honest with you, I thought, well, let me try this. Let me try the Zoom thing because I figured it would be like 1 month or 2 months of quarantine or limited travel, but then it just kept dragging on and on and on. So
it will continue to.
Yeah, it will. But
it's part of our lives for the foreseeable future.
From my angle of doing the podcast, I'm probably not going to do any more videos unless it's with someone that I've already met and we set something up. I've had 2 people that have reached out to me from America, from the States, that wanted me to do something, and I just have not met those people yet. And I'm not trying to be rude to them. It's not because I don't think they have quality information to share. It's just when I started doing my podcast here in Okinawa, I wanted to always meet the person and preferably I want to train together, right? So I can learn more about you, and then I can talk about the training during the podcast. We can have more of a conversation. And that's harder for me to do right now. I had to cancel some visits for August I had lined up with different dojos here on the island, and I'm not going to do it now for safety reasons.
Just on Okinawa.
But that's just kind of the angle that I've come from with my podcast, because I also wanted to get into some more video. I wanted to do more videos at the dojos and share the training that we're doing. But it works out well because you're familiar with doing them on Skype.
What I wanted to say first is that when we started, you were, I saw that like it was you and like a couple other people had podcasts, and I looked at them and I was like, I don't know if I should do this. What do I got to say? When I kind of spun it from a different angle, and then I thought, oh wow, these guys are gonna think I'm horning in on their territory, or I'm just trying to copy them, and it couldn't have been farther away from the truth. You were the first comment on one of our first podcasts, and we're like what I'm hearing, keep going. Yeah. And then you did a shout out to us in one of your videos, and I was like so thankful for that.
Rising tide, man. Rising tide lifts all ships, right? Or something like that.
Yes.
I felt the same way. What's funny is when I started mine, I put a blurb in there, the only karate podcast coming to you from the birthplace of karate, Okinawa, Japan. And then about a month or 2 after I started mine, or maybe even half a year, I don't know, there was a guy named James East. Have you met James?
James East?
James East, yeah. I don't know if you – okay, he's a Canadian that lives here on Okinawa, and I think he teaches at one of the colleges.
Okay.
And he was doing a podcast called The Path to the East or something like that with James East. And his sensei in their dojo are members of the same Rengokai Renmei that we are, that my sensei is a member of. So we met there and we got talking. I was like, I guess I can't say I'm the only podcast coming from Okinawa now.
The only karate podcast.
But the only karate podcast, right.
There you go.
But he stopped, so I think I now am the only one coming from Okinawa. But
you pushed him out. You got rid of the competition.
There could be 10 more out there tomorrow, and there's plenty of room for everybody to be doing something. But I started mine when I was sitting here listening to podcasts. There's some really good ones out there, and I thought, man, nobody is actually doing anything really, I felt, specific about Okinawa. There's a lot of really good martial arts podcasts out there that cover a variety of martial arts. But then I was like, well, I'm here in Okinawa. Let's try to do something specific to Okinawa. And that's kind of why I wanted to shy away from the videos. I have no problem interviewing Americans or anybody else that are here, right, when they come train. Or if I leave the island and I go somewhere, it's not like I'm only going to interview Okinawans. But that's just kind of why I wanted to keep it that way. And then, when did you get to your own? What year did you move there?
Somewhere between now and 2019.
But I think I found you were doing your podcast before you moved there.
Yeah, so I started my podcast, but we started it, the first episode was the end of 2018. This was a good friend of mine, Marty, and then Marty was kind of like, I got things going on, John. I got new promotion in life. I'm like, all right, that's great. Means I can't be on the podcast all the time. And then yeah, we still like
Yeah.
talk every day, but it's
Yeah.
just we're gonna see about getting him on. Then one of my old mentors, Jeremy, kind of contacted me out of the blue and was like, listen to your podcast. I'm like, by the by, maybe want to come be a co-host most of the time. And he was like, all right. This is kind of like what we'd end up talking about anyway, and that's kind of how I see what we do. But that's kind of, and I think that's the kind of the primary difference is that you do these really good kind of deep conversations with people, and like after you've done training with them on the floor, and after you kind of had an experience with somebody or have had experiences with them.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is kind of more like I have this topic we want to talk about, which
And that's
they're two
it's
different ideas.
awesome.
Yeah, they're just two different ways to, which is like an example of how this medium and kind of I guess the topic we're getting today, the kind of new age of media is
Especially right now with COVID, right?
yeah, and this is why I didn't want to do anything on Zoom because it seems like all the late night hosts are essentially taking that space.
Yes, they are.
Well, and I think everyone's going to get tired of that, and so that's why I'm like, I'm glad I never did anything like that.
I had to backpedal there about Zoom. I was pretty vocal in the beginning. Again, when I thought we were going to be like in a 1 to 2 month lockdown, everyone was immediately jumping on Zoom, and I have a personal problem with people trying to learn kata straight from a video. Ooh. I think it's fine to supplement your kata if you know, supplement your training if you know the kata, or there's one thing that you're trying to analyze and you've maybe trained with that sensei or something in that style, and you're like, okay, oh yeah, let's see what this guy's doing in the kata. Like, okay, here I give you an example, Okinawa Kempo, right? I love looking at the videos of Oyata Sensei. There's some from back in the 60s, black and white. There's some older ones of Odo Sensei, and I'll try to look at those and do comparisons. But I despise 100% learning from a video, strictly learning from a video. That's
secret
like
about me. I learned Nisei from an old video.
Did you? But you were in the system.
I guess I don't know. Like who's in it and out of systems? Like
well, true. But
I had someone later on who was able to give me guidance on it.
Yep.
I guess I sympathize with where you come from.
Well, do you remember that there was a scene in the very first Karate Kid, and I never really hit me so funny before, but until this COVID thing comes along and everything, and where Daniel is in his apartment practicing, and Mr. Miyagi comes in to fix the sink, and he says something about, "Oh, you're doing karate," and he's like, "Yeah," and he looks down, and he's, "Oh, you're learning from a book," and he goes, "Yeah, and a few nights at the YMCA where I trained," and it's just like that image of, "Yep, you're learning from a book," and now everybody's trying to learn from online. However, I had to eat my words because I've attended quite a few Zoom training sessions with one particular sensei that knows our kata very well because he trained Okinawa Kempo for a long time, and he now teaches. If you ask him what he teaches now, he just teaches Okinawa Karate. Actually, I interviewed him, Sensei Pat McGill.
That was one of the best
doing Zoom training.
Done. He was really that was really one of the best ones I've heard.
Thank you. Well, he does Zoom training for his own students every single day, or 5 days a week. So he set up Zoom training for his students, and he goes to the dojo, and then he has a handful of his students that are logging on every day, and they're at home.
Yeah.
So he sent me this invite, and he said, "Hey, if you want to join, because he still teaches only Okinawa Kempo weapons." So I was like, "Yeah, I'll try to join," and I loved it. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be over the Zoom training, because I don't know if you've used Zoom or if you've been on any of these chats with a bunch of people on a video, and you have the ability to see everybody in a grid, or you can just look at the only the person talking, right? So I block everybody else out, or they're like these little tiny icons up in the right hand corner. And on my TV, I go downstairs and I connect my computer to my 52-inch TV, and there's Pat Sensei at his dojo in San Francisco, up there on my television, and it's just me and him. So out of a very selfish way, I've come to like this Zoom training. So
well,
I was very.
We were doing. Me and Jeremy were doing WebEx training.
Okay.
Something like, God, it's like 8 years ago now. And so, yeah. So basically, I don't know if I really want to tip the hat on this, but the WebEx stuff, the base technology for that, Zoom kind of took.
Yeah.
And or just uses. I don't. If I can get Jeremy to kind of maybe talk about that next time, I'll just kind of like lay the dirt on, kind of like lay the bodies at Zoom's feet. But you see, it kind of goes back to like, if you know the person, I think it's not that big of a deal, especially if like there's a distance involved. Because for a long time it was me and one of my old buddy students. I call him a buddy student because like we're the same age, but I was teaching him. But he was also like we were like fairly close in terms of a lot of things, and so we were. Someone had said something very poignantly, and said, "You don't get good by going to 2 seminars a year," and that hit me very, 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 very where I lived, because it was like, well, I only go to 2 seminars a year to this particular thing. It's what I've been doing. It's the only way I've been able to do it. It's the only way a lot of people have been able to do this for a long time without like direct weekly communication, at least. And then Jeremy and I started getting on the WebEx stuff, and then kind of we did that every week for like 6 months. And I go back to the seminar, and everyone's like, "What happened to those two?" They're like, "What do you mean? Did they go in the room of spirit and time? What, like, when did they learn all this stuff?" It's like, "Oh yeah, we've been hanging out with Jeremy like every week, just learning different stuff and working on different stuff." So
I'm a believer now as well. I really am. But like you said, if you know the person and then you can train with them, it really is like you're there in the dojo with them, other than body contact, right? Other than being able to do techniques. And that's why it works out so well. If it was just trying to join from the beginning and not knowing the system or anything about it, it'd be very difficult. As a matter of fact, there's some people here in Okinawa that are doing it now, but it's a little bit too different for me. That I'd have to be in person to ask more questions. I can't do a 1-hour Zoom just learning from scratch. But hey, people are making it work, especially right now. I know you have to know people. I know people, unfortunately, that close doors, perhaps forever. And I think there's going to be more.
I'm
world actually. So
cautiously speaking on this in terms of, I have something I'm going to talk. I have a little essay that I've been trying to kick my butt into fixing up enough to publish, in terms of like video essay. And one of the things I have to keep on rewriting it because this thing just keeps on getting worse and worse. So one of the things I have to say is like, hopefully I'm going to be able to publish that before I publish this, is that saying like, look, most of this is still true despite the way the world's going. And people are closing their doors, and it's
I mean, not only dojos, right? Of course, that's what I refer to, because that's the type of relationships I have. Not business. It's not a business for me. People that business, and it's sad that they're probably not going to make it through this year. Hopefully things turn around.
Well, and the thing is, the big thing with that is being able to figure out, not necessarily having the space that you have, but it's the space, being able to at least continue the practice. And if you can continue the practice, and then you can continue to have the people along, that the money might not be there necessarily, at least you still have that. So when things do get better, you have that group of people, you have that pool of people to kind of pull back together and bring it back. So I think that's what everyone's hoping for, at least.
One of the things here in Okinawa that I think is this, and I know this living here, but I think some people that travel over here, they're a little bit surprised that dojos over here are so small. I mean, physically small, right? They're not huge rooms, and they typically don't have a lot of students. And I'm talking like some world famous 10th degree black belts that travel the world and put on seminars for 500 people at a time, or 500 people travel over here. But you go to their class on any regular day, 10 people. But that person probably still has a day job.
Yeah.
If they're retired, then that's all they're doing now is teaching, but they have a retirement. But the vast
sweet Japanese pension.
Yeah, exactly. They're teaching karate was not their job. It was not their profession. That's not how they paid the bills. And I think it's great if people can do that, but we're kind of in a situation now where we see a lot of people can't. Now, that being said, there's a lot of jobs that are not being performed right now. So I'm not trying to get a knock anybody that said, I'm going to go teach karate for the rest of my life. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm specifically in Okinawa. I don't know, other than someone like maybe Sakamoto Sensei, who has the Japan team, the Ryu world champions there.
Right.
But he, I think, also retired from. I think he worked to retirement, but his students are not working. His students, his top students there, the one Kiuna and the others, their profession is teaching. There's a handful of them that's their job. They're not. They don't have a day job and then they teach at night. Their job is teaching and going out and winning every tournament. And unfortunately,
right now
with the Olympics right now, that didn't happen. So.
And that was the big promise for like 8 years.
Yep.
I think it's something like 8 years now where it's like they were 2020 Olympics, 2020 Olympics, 2020 Olympics, 2020 Olympics, Japan 2020, Tokyo 2020, and that to just be gone, like it just felt like the air was taken out of the room for a lot of people.
Yep, it was.
But I guess what that has led us to is this, and I think you really hit it on the head, where it's not just Zoom, but also how new media is kind of reshaping kind of our thoughts on karate. I guess in terms of like social media and stuff like that. And so, like, for example, like you and me started talking on Facebook.
Yep.
And I don't think without like the podcasting forum, we probably would not have really crossed paths.
Right.
And so, and I it's kind of get, inside baseball, but I was just thinking like, how effective is both A, this new social media stuff with karate in itself, and B, how helpful is it being towards, where Josh, where do you think it's going in terms of how it's either helping or hurting?
I think it's a tornado. I think some things are going to fall out and they're going to be unscathed, and I think other things are being destroyed. I personally have taken probably a month and a half away from social media. I didn't get off completely, but I personally have not produced any new content in over a month. Now, a big reason is because I'm not going to the dojos and interviewing people and training with them. But I have both with martial arts and with other topics, I've become so disgusted with social media over the last probably 60 to 90 days that I've got to the point where I've completely thought about dropping off 100%.
Yeah.
But, I was never even on social media until I moved back over here to Japan in 2015. When I was back in the States, I did not have a Facebook account. I had nothing. I mean, Twitter was around. I didn't have that. I don't know if Instagram was around then. I didn't have that.
Did you even exist?
I existed, believe it or not. I remember going to the dojo one day and Sensei saying, "You need to have a Facebook account so I can tag you." I was like, "What the heck does that mean? I mean, we play tag? Like what? What you're talking about?"
That's got to be a really awkward conversation if you have no context for what.
I had no clue. And
I
was like, "Oh," she explained it to me. Like, okay, now I understand.
This thing you want me to put on the internet?
Yeah.
And you think about even 10 years ago, it's like, yeah, the karate internet video. What are you talking about? What? Go get a sandwich. Go get a life. Like,
So when I moved over here, I got on Facebook because I wanted to keep in touch with family. I remember giving some of my family members a hard time when I was living in the States. Like a cousin of mine, when his son was born, and we were, hundreds of miles away in a different state, I was like, geez, it'd be nice if you sent me an email, pictures of your son, my second cousin. And he was like, it'd be nice if you got on Facebook and you'd see all the pictures I posted. Okay, I'm not on social media, So when I moved over here, I thought, well, I better do that to keep in touch with family. And then it was like this whole world of like, wow, look at all this. Well, look at all that. Look at all this. And all these, oh, wait, this person's wrong about that. And then you go down this rabbit hole, right?
Yeah.
When I started the podcast, I thought, well, I need to have another page for the podcast, then Instagram, and then I had Twitter for a while, and then I got rid of that, and then maybe I need a website, and one thing leads to another, and then you got to maintain it, you got to keep it up.
Pay for it.
You got to pay for it. You got to pay for it. So that's the other thing. Like with the podcast, with mine, I'm using a company called Acast to host my podcast, which is $20 a month. Which there's more expensive ones out there, and I think there's less expensive. I think you were doing just YouTube for a long time, right?
For a long, long, long time.
But now you're up on a couple different platforms.
Well, and that was after making the decision to drop some money on it because it's always a question. It's the Joe Rogan had said this before, where it was like why he's funny because now he's got this big deal with Spotify. He had said before, and it made all of the sense in the world to me. Was why would I do any of that when you don't get anything from it? Eventually, and I'm not saying and the one thing you don't want to be known as is like the karate YouTuber or whatever. Mm-hmm. Not to say people who do karate on YouTube are bad, but YouTube supposedly is supposed to give you something back. Mm-hmm. Eventually, after you have X number of whatever what they want to keep moving the goalpost as. That's great. But then I was like, I had a couple of people be like, hey, this would be easier for me to just not listen to it on YouTube, for whatever reason. And then I was like, you know what? At least the reach is out there.
It is nice not on YouTube because if I want to use my phone for something else, I can close YouTube. I'll have a podcast playing, but then I can have other things going. So I'm glad you're not on just YouTube anymore, because
other people are too.
Yeah, but you're right. There's a cost associated with it. Like I've been paying for mine now for going on 3 years. I've never asked for advertising. I've never asked for sponsorship, and I don't want to ask for sponsorship or advertising because I don't want to be tied to anyone. I want if I want to give a review, I want to give a review of a product, right?
Right.
Like if I gave a terrible review of one of Sherato's gis, the New Wave 3, I hate that thing. I don't ever want to be tied to a situation where I feel like I have to lie about my opinion.
Buy this product.
Yeah, if I think it's good, it's good. If I think it's junk, I'm going to say it.
Because
I love other products by Sherato.
Buy a banana. I don't care. And that's a thing too, right? So when you talk about like social media and like how it's become so saturated and proliferated, that like everything's an advertisement, like the karate podcast is not going to sell something.
I'm trying to think, what can I sell?
Exactly. But like the karate podcast isn't going to sell something. Like the Joe Rogan stuff, or like people who have like a very general thing, or like who's been a famous personality who has people on, or I don't know, like the freaking Sopranos podcast now is apparently like has sponsorships and stuff like that because The Sopranos is a popular show, so that those cast members can continue to milk money out of them. But like, what are we gonna sell? Like, keys to who? The 20 people who listen, and then like the 5 people who like already know which one is not the game here. Like,
yeah, I mean, if I had a specific brand of a product or something, I would sell it. And at some point, honestly, I'm probably gonna be like, well, am I gonna continue to pay $20 a month to host it? Because it does add up, right? But here's the other thing that adds up, and I love going to the different dojos to train. But parking around Okinawa is typically not free, right? So I've been down to like the Asato Dojo at James's place, and I've stayed there for hours on end. Okay, well that's probably $15 of parking, or 1,500 yen, let's say. And then I've taken people to dinner, not a big deal, but for interviews. Those little things do start to add up, and it's like, man, I could do this and not put a podcast out, and then I would still get to enjoy all the benefits of it. So if I keep sharing this information, should I open it up to advertising? But again, I don't want to deal with that, like where where I am pushed to have a 5-minute spiel in the beginning, or then something in the middle and the end. And other people do it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Because honestly, that's why that plus 10 seconds is available on my phone, so I can jump through that. Because that's what happens, right? If you listen to Joe Rogan or somebody like that, or anybody on their podcast channel, there's always these advertisements in the beginning or in the middle. But if you go to their YouTube and you throw it up there's none of that.
Yeah.
There's no 5 minutes of advertising in the beginning. And I don't mind it. People have to get paid. I don't mind that. I'm just not probably going to listen to it.
It's also you and me are like regular dudes. Like we're not
exactly.
We work. We have obligations and stuff.
Yep.
But we also have like a passion for like karate. We have a passion for martial arts.
Yep.
You have a passion for training with people. I have a passion to kind of like talk about like kind of dig into different parts here and there on stuff maybe people don't talk about too much.
Yep.
But how widespread is that going to get? Especially nowadays. Not saying that your noble podcast hosts are ever going to quit what they do, but we're also not going to quit our day jobs.
Well, I am definitely not going to quit my day job. I've got too much. I have to pay bills for too many other things.
He's in too deep.
Karate's not. Well, so this is kind of interesting too. Going back to when I was talking earlier about most of the people that teach here, even these like world famous tentons that have had other jobs, because one of the beauties of living on Okinawa is martial arts are cheap. Like our monthly tuition is cheap. When I teach, I have insurance to cover me and cover my students at my dojo. My insurance is dirt cheap compared to what it is in America. It's the cost of 2 car tires for the whole year. I mean, it's really cheap here in Okinawa. But what we don't have is we don't have 15 billboards as you drive down the highway with lawyers that want to sue everybody. We're in a different country, right? We're just not a sue happy nation here in Japan. If people get hurt, they get hurt, and you have to cover them. But it's economical here. Like in America, I've talked 100%. To people that between the rent and the insurance are paying over $3,000 a month to run their dojo. How can you do that? Well, you have to have a job, or you have to be a McDojo, and you have to have birthday parties, and you have to have 15 different promotions a month and all this and that. We don't do that over here. Thank goodness. I don't ever want to get into a situation where I'm stuck doing that. But our monthly tuition is very low compared to other places, like it was in the States for me, which I didn't pay a lot in the States. We still had a really cheap dojo in the States because our sensei was not out there for the money. But over here, people aren't out for the money either necessarily, Necessarily. I've been surprised. I've been shocked a couple times on Okinawa by Okinawans that really had a love for money. But for the most part, for the majority, it's not that way. It's not that way. Thank goodness.
And like going back to social media, like a lot of these places you don't know they exist. Like I think now with the what is the information center?
Yes.
It's like starting to like get these places on the map.
Okinawa Karate Information Center. Yes. I love those guys down there. They do great work, and they do put people on the map. They do a lot of good work down there at the Kaikon, which they're not part of the Kaikon. They are in the Kaikon, but they're not part of the Kaikon. OKIC.com or OKIC.Okinawa.
They're not paying us.
They're not paying us.
They're not paying for that plug.
I have had personal issues with front staff at the Kaikon. Have you been to the Kaikon?
I have really bad cell phone footage that I nearly threw away of going there last time I was in Okinawa.
Okay.
Because I walked from actually not that far off from where James's place is. to the Kaikon and back.
Oh, okay.
Just to
That's
kind of
a good
see
point.
where it was. But, like I just saw it and was like, and it's a really nice place.
Yeah.
It's really cool little place. I know you did a video. You went
I
there and
did a video there, but here's the thing. I did not interview anyone that works there at the front office, at the staff. And I didn't want to. Now I do, and I'll tell you why. But the people that were working there were not passionate about karate. I don't think they gave a crap about it. That was just a job.
Yeah.
And it was part of it was a government agency. That's all it is, right? But the OKIC was doing great work, and I think people would associate them, and they were not one and the same. Now, that being said, there's a new Kaicho there who is the grandson of Nakamura Shigeru.
Interesting.
Did you know that?
No.
He's running he is running the front office of the Kaikon. So his background, his profession is in the tourist industry. And when were the Olympics in Atlanta? 1988? I think it was 1988.
You're older than me, so you would know. You would know that. I'm just telling the truth here. I'm like, there was an Olympics in Atlanta? When?
I was 12 years old.
I don't know.
I was 12 years old in 1988. Yes, there was Olympics in Atlanta, Summer Olympics. I'm pretty sure it was 88. He went there, actually, and several other senseis at that time. Shimabukuro sensei, Zempo, Nakazato sensei from Shodan-ryu Shodan-kan went, and a handful of other people. Okay. But he's now in charge of the front office at the Kaikon, so I think things are going to be well organized, and they're going to be focused on actual karate instead of just people yelling at you because of different reasons. We did not have very good relations with the people in the front office of the Kaikon. That's my gripe for the day. I will stop now.
That's all right. Like, I
don't even know how we talking about that.
Oh, he was just talking about the Kaikon and talking about OKIC and how they're getting different people on the map. So it's Control Z, the conversation to that.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, right. That's basically, like, that's the thing that I think is interesting is that these places, obviously you have the kind of history of, pre-war, post-war, how karate was used to get you guys to pay money and stuff like that. That's kind of maybe a different conversation for a different time. It's unfathomable to us that someone would have a dojo and not have a website or a listing or whatever. And the internet's made that super, super easy. Right. And there's probably just a lot of old school guys probably who have a decent understanding of at least how to use their phone now, maybe not the internet, but they could actually maybe put that up there. So, and I think it's just they don't want to, they don't feel the need to.
They don't have the need to. I think the next generation will, but it's comical. Like Hokama Sensei, I think he still uses a fax machine. And that's common in Japan.
That is common in Japan. Japan has a technology of almost like 20 years from now, but has the mindset of that we need to go back to the 1980s because that's when the economy was good.
They still use fax machines. So a lot of these senseis aren't going to have a website or a Facebook account, but their sons are, their daughters are, and then their students are. So we're seeing that people my age, even though I'm older than you, they're helping their senseis. They're helping their senseis.
Like how much we don't know.
Get on Facebook and have a presence, but the OKIC is doing that as well.
Yeah, they're doing a good job.
Speaking of social media and doing Zoom, there's an agency here in Okinawa called Ageshio, and have you heard of them? They're a tourist agency, I guess is what I will call them, because they have a heavy background in tourism. But the man that runs it is a Shito Ryu practitioner, and they're on the same street. They're in Naha. They're on the same street as Shiredo and the Sato Dojo.
Okay.
And they were actually organizing with some of the senseis here of doing Zoom training, because their business is bringing the tourists over, bringing the karate tourists over from around the world, and they will organize dojo training for you. What do you want to do? You want to do Uechi-ryu, Shorin-ryu, Goju-ryu, or all of it? They have different packages. And because of social media, because they are social media savvy, they were going to some of these dojos and doing Zoom training. And I assume it worked out well. I didn't attend any of it. But I think that's, getting back to your first question or topic about social media, there's definitely pros. There's definitely pros with it. I have just had, I guess, a real sour taste because of, not only because of martial arts, but because of other things going on in the world on social media, right? So
disinformation in politics, I mean, 2020 is the apex center of it.
It certainly is. And then, wouldn't you know it, there was a few martial arts Facebook groups that little bits of that social media presence was showing up that I hate. The politics side or it's one thing if somebody wants to make a joke or make a comment or whatever, but then there was one Facebook group that people were trying to, I don't know, it was just trying to get too political, like really not even about, I thought it was taking away from karate, and it was really pushing an agenda. And I saw people, a handful of people saying, "I'm out of here. See you later. I'm gone. I'm out of here." And the moderator put a stop to one of the posts, turned off comments on it, and politely asked the individual to rewrite the post with some factual information, or at least personal experience information. And they did, and then it kind of got a little bit better after that. But it was like, I was to this breaking point of stepping away from it completely. But I don't want to stop the podcast. And if I do step away from social media completely, then I will have to stop the podcast, because you have to be on some form of social media now.
Yeah, because you can't, I mean, there's not like, it's like you can go out and like give a little newsy boy a thing and he can be like, step right up. Yeah, listen to the Okinawa Karate Podcast just down the way. Like, It's just, we don't live in a world where like you can actually ever like physically like hand out signs to listen to my podcast. God, I wish it was the 90s still.
Yeah.
And it still had that like magical era of just like $5 is Xerox, and then everyone in town shows up. And then insert your mid-90s movie here. Go a little deeper into that. It's like, what's the use of the Facebook group? Like, what's the use of it? Like, if there's a billion of them, it's and normally they're just like, it's the same thing that goes on with Reddit and same things anywhere else. Even the old day forums, where it's just like, there's a little moderator pissing contest, and then someone just like, there's not people who go off and start their own thing.
It's funny you mention that, because I don't know how many times I'll Google something and a topic comes up in a forum that's more than 10 years old, right? Like, no one's been in these forums forever. It's like, oh my gosh, I remember those, and people would rant in them forever. Hell, I did. You know?
I look back to like the early 2000s ones, and I have like one bookmarked as my favorite, because I know the two people who went at it, and I was like, yep, it's still here in public, plain as day.
Yep.
Thank God no one's boss is going back and checking this XYZ forum.
Yep.
Not that it had anything like super racy in it. It was just like two people like publicly arguing and stuff like that. But that's like the biggest, like, and that's the thing. It's the big difference between like even just 10 years ago and now.
Yeah.
Where like if you were like, well, that person was da 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 da, and then like suddenly it's a news headline where it's like, Josh said this, and so he hates Tumblr feminist lesbian babies, and it's just like.
Or someone posts themselves doing a kata, and 458 people have to respond and say, well, that would never work, or your stance is too wide, or this is wrong, and that, and blah blah blah. Whereas you'll take one still photo of multiple choki, and people will hold it up there like it's Allah, and you don't have any idea what he was doing in that one still photo. And then I could go through that and say, well, why is his shoulder so high? Why is he not bending his knees more or whatever? But I don't know if you and I have talked about this or not, training with injuries and how you modify certain things to compensate for a bad knee, a bad back, or whatever. I've had conversations with different people that have gone through it, and I know for a fact, I know senseis that have stopped teaching certain kata or teaching them a certain way because of their own ailments. And then their students follow suit like it. But there's another example of, you'll see somebody post a video. You have no idea what's going on with that person's body unless they've said it, But
Right.
then here's all these social media idiots. I just can't say it any other way, that want to critique everything about them. And I just get so frustrated with it. Unless it's a specific forum where someone is asking, please watch my kata. Okay, I am Matsubayashi Ryu, and please watch this kata and let's discuss it. Otherwise, I can't stand it. I cannot stand when people have to critique everything left and right.
And I don't think that I think there's people asking, what will it really do? You don't know. And if you don't know those people, they don't know you.
This is a good point.
Maybe it will give you some sense of I could be a little wrong about this, but it makes enough sense because it's the way social media is designed, right? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, that red and certain colors, red and green, make the brain feel a certain way.
Oh yeah.
And so when you get comments or you get likes or you get all this other stuff, and if you're in good faith asking to someone to critique your kata, and then if a bunch of people were like, "Good job,"
yeah,
or someone's like, "You suck, you're a terrible thing," and I would do better with my thing and a thing and a thing.
Yep.
What good does it do?
Yeah, there's definitely a science behind that. Actually, I just had a conversation with a friend of mine a couple days ago, and that's one of the main reasons he's not on social media anymore. Is he said they have all these psychologists that are just working there to try to keep people on there in an angry state, because then that just keeps the fire going. I'm like, wow, you're exactly right. I think they're all in the karate forums.
Well, and then it's YouTube analytics or analytics in general.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Are kind of designed, and this happened to me where I was looking at analytics of stuff, being of course, it means so much. It just means whatever an algorithm pops your video or recording to wherever, and then maybe somebody has listened to it for 10 seconds and turned it off, or accidentally clicked on it, or
Mm-hmm.
It's not meaningless,
Right.
Because we're still participating in it. I think us doing what we do, just putting out ideas and stuff isn't inherently a bad thing.
Right.
But I think is the detractor point is where people say, or programs are built to, if you are not popular, if you are not trending, if you are not X, Y, and Z, you are useless, you're worthless.
Yeah.
It wasn't good.
You know what? I think that comes back to what we were talking to earlier a little bit about doing things for passion and doing it because you want to do it,
right.
not just for money and paying the bills, because you have a different reason and you have a different agenda. I've had a handful of people make jokes or comments oh, you should do advertising and you got to get on YouTube and get all these subscribers and everything, and then you get paid. You'll be like the next Jesse Enkamp. Whoa. I have great respect for that man, for what he's doing and how he's built his business, essentially, right? Because that is his job. He will tell you that's his job on social media. He's a karate nerd and he travels the world to train and everything. That's not me. I don't have a desire to be like that. Plus, yeah, I'm not his age, right? Where I'm going around and competing in these tournaments. That's not my focus. I totally respect him for what he's doing, and that's another thing I wanted to say. One of the things about this podcast, doing podcasts, that I didn't know I was going to enjoy so much, but meeting different people and finding out how passionate they are about what they're doing. I didn't know that going into it, but it's been one of the things that I found that I love the most. You You interview people, you talk to people, you meet people. They are passionate about what they're doing. And that's pretty awesome. I like that about people. I had no idea that I would feel that way or that I would see that. But I'll interview somebody that's training Masabiyashi Ryu. I'll interview somebody that trained Multiple Dundee. I'll interview somebody that's a Goju Do. Interviewed Jesse Enkamp 2 times. These different things, and it's like when you're in the presence, which is another reason why I do like being face to face with people. You're gonna feel them a little bit differently. It's like, wow, they are so passionate about what they're doing. It doesn't matter if I like it or not. It doesn't matter if it's my style. It doesn't matter if I agree with it. But damn, that person's like all in. And it's something really, really awesome, really attractive about that, right? Like Jesse Enkamp gets a bad rap from a lot of people. Some people love him, some people hate him. I think there's a lot of jealousy out there. But I'll tell you what, like when I was in his presence, it was like, this guy, I think no matter what he wants to do in life, he would be successful at it. He's got that persona about him. He's got that focus. He's got that attention, no matter what he does. I don't care if people don't like his gi. I don't care if people don't like him. I really don't care. People don't like me. I don't care. It doesn't matter, right? But
well, and very specifically, he's a karate brand.
Yeah.
I mean, he puts himself out there as that, which, I mean,
he does, and
I'm not going to comment on that.
That's going to invite a lot of hatred. It's going to invite a lot of critique.
But I mean, that's what he does.
It's what he does.
And that's the thing. Like, this is why karate is so open to interpretation, because karate has always had this I don't want to say identity crisis, but it has had a much more open identity than other martial arts that tend to, like, for example, like kendo, judo, aikido, don't have very open identities historically. Very Japanese. Fencing, it's very European, right? Boxing has a English kind of background, but also has a lot of strong roots in with American culture.
Hell yeah, Rocky.
Right? Where'd you come up with the name Italian Stallion? Oh, I was just thinking of one day when I was eating dinner. The thing is with karate is like it has this kind of more open identity, which invites a lot more in. I think other martial arts have started to open up a little more, but karate in itself, occupied land, post-war, people had to mix. So I mean, the karate is more open. It's open. It's just open for me as it is for you, as for Jesse Enkamp, as for anybody else.
But yeah, I have no desire to go that far down the social media path. I really am enjoying what I'm doing when I can do it. I'm just kind of stuck right now because of COVID.
Hopefully one day.
Actually, I think this weekend I was going to be somewhere and putting together some footage and training and that that frustrates the heck out of me, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get back to it. I mean, this is for now. This is not forever. And that's what I keep telling myself. And so I think other people need to understand. And that if they keep on trying to, some people want to try to act like it's we just ignore it. Well, we can't ignore it. But that doesn't mean we can't function in different ways until then.
Right. It's
annoying. People don't like it. It's fine. They don't like immediate change. But it is what it is. Yeah. Cool. Any last words on any of that? You want to pitch to Jeffrey Katzenberg so our podcast respectively can get on Quibi?
You can do the pitch.
Just create 8-minute like slice of life podcasts.
I'll do an 8-minute slice of Okinawa life, Okinawa karate life. No, I mean, in closing, I want to thank you for setting this up and doing this. When you get down here, we're going to do it live. We'll train once and for all. And
in color.
Yeah, and compare some kata. That'll be a lot of fun and do some training there. So
yeah, I mean,
and then we'll post our episodes up on social media. So so as we sat here and bashed social, well, I don't know if we bashed it. I think we bashed.
We didn't bash it. We critiqued it for what it's worth.
We critiqued it for what it's worth, right? But I like you had said, 2020, right, where everything's kind of, you have so many people sitting home bored and they can't do anything else, so they're online even more. I think when you come on down to Okinawa next time, or who knows, maybe I'll visit you up there. We'll do some beach training if we're not allowed to go inside any buildings. We can
Well,
social distance.
admittedly, there's only two ways you can get here: the expensive way and the long way. But if things when things get clearer, we will definitely do that. Yeah. So one thing I like to do at the end of the show is always ask, Josh, what the heck you working on this week? I guess it's Thursday. Normally we do this on like later in the week. What have you been working on, and what are you trying to work on?
So let me tell you what I've been working on, and this is the other reason why I've been a little bit irritated for the last month. I haven't been able to work on a lot. I have 6 herniated discs in my back, 3 in my neck, 3 in my lower back, and I've been working on getting mobile again. My lower back, I was exercising of all things, and I was doing squats, and I really hurt myself badly in the beginning of July, and have just been completely miserable for the entire month. So I'm working on becoming mobile again, doing a lot of stretching is what I've been working on. I am to the point now where I can sleep again without a lot of pain. I can get up without having to pull, like on the arms of the chair and stuff like that. And I have these markers in my life that I use to gauge my health. Can I stand up and get dressed? Like put my socks on standing up? Can I stand up to put my shoes on? It means bend over and tie my shoes or whatever. Okay. And the other thing is my waist getting, or are my pants getting too tight? Now these are very simple things that you can do every single day of your life. You don't need a scale. You don't need to go to the doctor. I'm not saying there isn't more important ways to measure your health, but these are markers. And the reason I have these is because of people that I have in my life that cannot do these things. And I watched them from the time I was a child get to the point where they can't do any of these. So I've sworn to myself I'm not going to be like that, or I'm going to go as long as I possibly can without being like that. For the month of July, I couldn't do any of those things. So I was flat out miserable, man. And that's then all this other social media crap, and I was like, I'm getting off everything. The whole world I'm done with everything. So what I'm working on is getting back to my happy place of being able to move again.
And that's kind of like half of it is just if you're content, like you can start moving. If you're not content, it's harder, especially if you got injured.
I was miserable. I mean, I was hating life. I was purely miserable. I was teaching my class, couldn't hardly do anything. I was miserable. Miserable around the house, miserable to the people around me. I felt bad. Like 3 or 4 trips to the chiropractor. But it's getting all right now. I did some really good stretching again yesterday. I've been stretching a lot. So that's what I've been working on. How about you? What are you working
on? This week is kind of been weird quarantine brain. So because I've got, I'm kind of in lockdown where I am for the first, really people urging others to stay home, despite some places that you really can't because of an unfortunate outbreak that happened here. But, what I was working on today is covering all the basics, and then what I'm trying to do is just improve what I can, because doing contact stuff with people, right now is kind of out, and as we talked before, apparently getting back where I live is close to impossible. So trying to figure out kind of different methods and stuff, and for when I can kind of go back to a hardware store and just be like, well, there's a huge PVC pipe. What can I make work with this? Yep. Doing the old Okinawan thing of using the resources I've got, not necessarily getting the resources I want.
Yeah, so if anybody's listening has a heavy bag they want to send to Jonathan, he's searching for, what do you want, an 80 to 100 pound bag or more?
It's not so much that. It's like, I said this last time, Jeff Bezos won't send me one.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's I haven't really investigated it too terribly because I'm like, all right, well, I don't want to spend like X number of dollars on this right now, so I, use that money for other things. But it's like you'd be like, all right, it's gonna be a big purchase. Wait 2 or 3 months, grab the money. All right, boom, this will be good. This will be good for training, good for contact, good for whatever. Can't send to your location. Look for an alternative. Can't send to your location. Look for an alternative. Can't send it to your location. Look for an alternative. It's filled with styrofoam. Will send to your location. I'm like, nope, not spending money on that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if you get down here to Okinawa, you might be able to find one, but then you got to get it back to where you're at, or you just empty one out and then go home with sand.
That's not hard. It's just a matter of actually getting it. So, Fighting Road, if you will sponsor, if you don't have to give me any money, just send me a punching bag.
Yeah.
I got you stuff when I lived 2 islands up 5 years ago. You were fine with sending it then, but now, no. Smaller island, so we're not sending it there. Get a little sassy, John, after not getting his bag. All right, anything you want to say and sign it up?
I'm good, man. I really appreciate it. Keep tuning in. Keep tuning into the Karate Without Belts. Keep tuning in to Okinawa Karate Podcast.
Yeah, and we'll probably have some more collab content coming your way. Yes. Until then, Josh, thanks so much for being on. And
thank you, sir.
Thank you. And don't forget to keep training.